Alrighty, I think everybody's in, so good morning and welcome to our Fiji presentation. We have Richard here from Waidroka Bay Resort in Fiji, and I am going to let him take you away.
Thank you, Cheryl. Good morning or good afternoon, everybody, wherever you are. I'm Richard Akhtar, and as Cheryl said, I'm going to be presenting on Waidroka Bay Resort in Fiji. I do sales and marketing for Waidroka. I'm based in Colorado. I've lived here for the last 5 years. But before that, I was the best part of 15 years in Fiji. So I certainly feel that Fiji is one of my homes. You may tell from my accent that I'm another Brit, part of the Brit invasion here. Anyway, so we're going to look at some Fiji diving, obviously, and really importantly, how to make some choices as to where to go, where maybe if you're going all the way from the US, you need to make some choices about that. But we're also going to look at what there is for the non-diving person, or for what you want to do when you're not diving. Of course, the resort, Waidroka Bay Resort, and we'll talk a bit about Fiji and the people too. Kind of a weird picture. I took this picture 2 days ago, just by coincidence. It's kind of weird here, probably where you are too, under the stay-at-home orders, and suddenly you think that you have a lot of time to do a lot of projects that you didn't get around to yet. It actually hasn't proven to be the case. We seem to be very busy. But anyway, one of my projects was a potting shed. Yeah, I know I'm in Colorado, but that's potting shed. And that's been on my project list for a while. And I took this picture because I was sharing this concrete pad picture with a friend who might give me some ideas on how to get going on this project. As I say, that was 2 days ago. And then yesterday, I woke up to this. Not only was the forecast going to be 14 degrees, but we had no power. And though I expect others in this room are one of the lucky ones, and we get to travel in more normal times and probably travel quite a bit. But right now we're kind of stuck here, and I started to dream. And I was dreaming about warmer, sunnier days when, no, not my potting shed could be complete. More likely, spending a surface interval on Yanutha Island in Benga Lagoon in Fiji, having just completed an amazing soft coral dive, eagerly anticipating the next dive, hanging out here with just me, the boat, my fellow divers, and no one else around. And give you this image because wherever you go in Fiji, whoever you dive with, and we hope it's with us, but there are choices. This will be very typical. You will be with your dive boat, the people on the dive boat, and by and large, there won't be another boat for you to see. There won't be other divers in the water, and you'll mostly have the place to yourself, which is pretty unique and certainly very, very special. Let's talk a little bit about the diving in Fiji. This is a Jean-Michel Cousteau quote here. He said this quite some time ago. I think it remains true. And a lot of it's very much due to what I just said about the diving experience in Fiji. There really is, for such a spectacular dive location, there is really very little pressure on the reefs. To say, when you dive, you'll generally be the only dive boat in the area. Maybe you'll see one or two others. And in a week of diving in Fiji, if you see a dozen other boats, that would be extraordinary. So there's very little diving pressure on the reefs, and the reefs, as a result, are some of the world's healthiest. Fiji has 4% of the planet's reefs. Amazing biodiversity. And in comparison, for say, well, a lot of us dive the Caribbean. I'm certainly missing my Cozumel trip right now that was planned, and I love diving there. when you dive in the Pacific, and I don't know how many people in the room have, it's slightly odd sitting here and not being able to get a show of hands or connect with people.
Richard, I'm going to interrupt you. Guys, while he's talking, I'm going to have you keep talking, Richard, but real quick, we can actually, if you guys in the chat box, you can raise your hand. So, Richard, did you want to know in the South Pacific or in Fiji in particular?
Oh, South Pacific, Fiji. Oh, people are raising hands. No, that's cool. I didn't realize that. Oh, here we go. Quite a few people have. Okay, so that's good to know. So we have some familiarity here. But so you'll know that you know, the Caribbean Atlantic has 300 species of fish in total. At Fiji, when I first went there all those years ago in 2002, we were counting at around about 1,200. But we got a lot of fish geeks and a lot of counting, and that number is now at 1,800, and we're still adding new species to that list on a yearly basis. And of course, we're tropical, being in the South Pacific. The one thing worth mentioning at this point is that we are 17 to 19 degrees south. That's roughly equivalent to the Hawaiian Islands north. So we do get seasonal variations. And in the middle of summer, which is January, February, March is the middle of summer for us, you can have the water temperatures up at around a balmy 85. July, August, September is the middle of winter. And we generally say around about 78, but it's not unheard of to see 75. So this is something that when you're planning your trip and your time of year, you just need to bear in mind for what kind of equipment and clothing you want to take with you. And Fiji has been coined the soft coral capital of the world, and we'll talk a little more about that shortly. And if you look at our geographical area, there's over 1 million square miles of potential underwater. So this is where to explore. So this is where it becomes important to start understanding how to narrow Fiji down and where to go. And here's a kind of rough map of the archipelago. It seems to be an agreed number that there are 332 islands in Fiji. 110 of them, we know for sure, are permanently inhabited. And most of those inhabited islands will have somewhere on there that says, hey, we can take you diving. And they will be able to, and they'll be able to take you diving safely. The health and safety standards in Fiji are very rigid on what you can and can't do with diving. But for the most part, the diving will be good, but it might not necessarily be the best of what Fiji has to offer. So one of the first things to do is to narrow the whole archipelago down into some hotspots for diving. And it's quite easy, and you've got them right here. Now, fortunately, and if you stay with the presentations throughout the next couple of days, you're going to hear from Paradise, who are on the Rainbow Reef, Volley, who are in Bly Water. So the first two on that list there. I'm going to be talking about Bengal Lagoon and sharks. And there's also down at the bottom there on Kandavu, the Great Astrolabe Reef. Sadly, I don't think there's anyone this weekend talking about that area, but we're going to get a good coverage of three of them. So the first thing you need to do when thinking about Fiji is to start narrowing down into one of these areas, and then within each of these there are choices. So you might have the choice of one or more land-based operations, and also we have a liveaboard in Fiji too. So it's actually pretty quick to start breaking down Fiji and where you should be thinking of diving. Now, if you have a week, you realistically are only going to really dive one of these areas. If you have 10 days, 2 weeks, our recommendation, pretty much all of us would say, well, we'd love to have you at our resort for 2 weeks, but to really get the best of Fiji diving, you've got an opportunity to explore a second area. These areas are so distinctly different that it would be really worth doing that. I'm just going to go back a slide. So as I said, the area that I'm based at, and I think I can do a pointer here because I'm going to need this later, is, so Waidroka Bay Resort is right where this pointer is. And so we are diving this area, Benga Lagoon, and we also do shark diving too. And this is kind of a typical shot of a soft coral dive in Fiji. You can probably get a sense from that we're relatively shallow, and there's a lot of light and a lot of color, amazing soft corals, and a myriad of colorful fish swimming all around. So this when we say soft coral diving in Fiji, this would be a kind of typical image of that. And Benga Lagoon is renowned for its soft corals, and in fact was where the phrase soft coral capital of the world was coined. Also in the Benga area, you have a couple of operators who have, since the year 2000, been operating shark feeding dives. They do a lot of research comes out of this, and it's really quite something to be to have a big animal like this, literally with its nose on your dome port. These are obviously tiger sharks here. You get lucky to see the tigers, but you will always on these dives see 20, 30, 40, 50 bull sharks, and frequently up to 8 species of sharks coming in on these dives. Moving on to kind of integrating where we fit into all of this, Waidroka Bay Resort and diving and everything else that we do. So we're a small resort on Viti Levu. So this is Fiji's main island, and as you can see, we're quite away from everything. We're about 4 kilometers, 3 miles or so off the main road, in a private lagoon. And obviously we have a big emphasis being right there on diving, and we like to consider ourselves the place to access and dive Benga Lagoon, and I'll show you that in a minute. Equally, we have, because of our location, we're very lucky in that we can access a lot of topside activities too, and I'll share that with you. We only have 12 rooms, or 12 barays as they're called in Fiji. So we're an intimate resort, 24, maybe 26 people max. So we like to think of our resort as the perfect home away from home, and really where you'll be treated like one of the family. And as I say, being on the main island, we are just over 2 hours from the international airport. So when you fly from the US, you land early in the morning at about 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. You'll be at the resort in time for a full breakfast. For those who are keen, you can get down to the dive shop, get your equipment sorted, and maybe even jump in for a dive straight away. And the advantage you get, another advantage of being on the main island is that once you land in Fiji, you don't have to think about any further air transfers, no further boat transfers, no possible further restrictions on being able to take all of your luggage and your dive gear and your photographic equipment with you. And you're also not stuck waiting for transfers to get on and off the island if you want to get out and do things off the resort, which from Waidroka you can do 24/7. We like to say that we are the place to dive Benga Lagoon. This is Benga Lagoon here, big lagoon, and a lot of the dive sites are up along here, and this is where we're based. So we look straight out over this, and we pop out of the reef here and dive all these dive sites. Furthermore, one of the advantages of our location is that we can head right out to here. This is a little bit of a way, it's about 40 minutes, but this is Frigate's Passage, and these outer walls here have some spectacular diving, and they're pretty remote, but we're very lucky in being able to access them easily. And then often when if we've been out for 3 dives and we're on the way home, we have some beautiful dive sites all along here, generally a lot more hard coral here that we can explore before we pop back in. And then finally, right out here, there's a little offshore coral atoll called the Kau Leku Leku. It's about an hour and a half from the resort. We don't go out there very often, but if you get the chance to explore out there on a flat, calm day, that's quite spectacular too. So I think, it's marked here. We talk about the shark diving, and that's just along here. So one of the things that we do with the shark diving is we access it from our own boat. So you're with our crew, our dive masters. We stay together and dive that from, as I say, from our boat, and that's about 25 minutes away from us. So we firmly believe that we obviously are diving Benga Lagoon, which is one of the hot spots. We have the shark dives, which are another one of the hot spots of diving. So to be able to access 2 of the 4 key dive areas in Fiji from one location is pretty unique and pretty special. We're a PADI dive center, instructors on site, full range of courses, and we, as I say, are fairly intimate. We can dive 24 divers off. We have a fleet of 5 boats, but 24 divers off 2 roomy, comfortable boats. And something for dive shops here that again is pretty unique and special. If you have 20 divers, we'll guarantee you the whole resort. And that really changes the dynamic of a trip when there is nobody else's agenda to consider, just the group, and we can divide the group per level of comfort, per their interest, the photographers, non-photographers, etc. And by and large, I mean, obviously agendas are kind of dictated by conditions and tides and things like that, but you get to have a very big say in how everything goes when you have the whole resort to yourself. So a typical dive day for us would be a briefing the night before if we thought we were going to get an early start the next day. Otherwise, a kind of breakfast briefing, aiming to leave the dive shop around 8:30 in the morning. Obviously, boats get loaded, equipment gets moved, and everything gets ready for you whilst you're having breakfast. And then we'll go out for either a 2 or 3 tank day, depending on where we want to explore that day. If it's 2, we'll go out, we'll do a surface interval, maybe on the boat, but often, if you remember the picture I showed you earlier, on a beautiful beach, and then return for lunch. If we do that, then there's always an option of a 3rd dive. And if we're out for 3, then obviously we take lunch with us. Cheryl, do I take the Q&A, or do you do that?
You can take the Q&A if you can see it there and read it. If you want to read it yourself, by all means, go ahead. Or yeah, I mean, you can either read that. I don't know that everyone can see the questions, so if you want to read them out loud and then answer them. Otherwise, we can, if people want to raise their hands or type something in, I've also been opening up for them to ask you directly. So if you want to tackle the one right now,
the cathedral, I think the cathedral is, there's a picture of that right there. Oh, that's Golden Arch, actually. Around about 25-30 minutes is the answer to that question.
Okay. And then Terry answered it by chat, but
oh, okay. I'll leave it then.
No, that's okay. Yeah. But Michael Richardson had asked if there was shore diving, and can you also give some typical dive times and maximum depths?
Okay. Shore diving. What we would tend to do is to run you out to a local dive site. We're mangrove based. So there isn't so much in the way of shore diving, though there are some very, very close by dive sites if you wanted to pop out and do extra dives on those. We generally, for maximum times and depths, we generally don't brief in times. You know, we like to be respectful of other divers on the boat. So if you're going to be doing 70 minutes and everybody else is doing 40 minutes, you know, that's something that the group kind of needs to work within themselves. And also we have, you know, if we're out for 3, we need to be able to get the dives in and do the surface intervals. But we're a dive-centric resort. We're not about telling people to be out of the water in, you know, X amount of time. And again for depths, within the limit of the qualification, a lot of our diving is not. There's no point to go deep. The shark dives that I showed you, they're actually quite deep. They're down at 100 feet, but you're stationary. And you're going to do 2. So that is briefed in, and there are times that is strictly controlled. The soft coral diving, a lot of that's shallow, and you know, so there's a lot of opportunity for longer dives there. I hope that answers that question, but please give me more if we need.
Richard, do you see in the Q&A box, there's a couple of questions popped up?
I do. At this point, we cannot support rebreathers. As to cancellation and refund policies, we're doing everything here through Cheryl, Terry, Christy, Laurie, and they will be able to talk to you in detail. We have a very close relationship with Deep Blue. Our primary goal is to, at all times, to work with them and with our customers to facilitate the best diving holiday that they can have. We are being very flexible on our rebooking policies right now, and we have some hopefully quite attractive pre-booking policies, which the team will communicate out to everyone that we talked to Deep Blue about earlier. So yes, we are being very flexible right now. Let's see. Muck dives. Not. You know, some of the close by sites are really good for macro. Muck diving in Fiji per se is though we have all the critters, it's not going to be the same density as some of the the world's best known muck dive sites. But we do have everything from pygmy seahorses through to the megafauna. It's all there. Okay.
One question Terry answered in the chat, but I'll bring it up because I don't know that the question could have been seen. As somebody had gone years ago and asked about, what the luggage allowance is like. Fiji Airways, which is really the only convenient way to get there to the States, goes from LA and San Francisco direct. It's about a 10.5-hour flight. They were asking about luggage allowance. The carry-on is quite small, 7 pounds. However, the check bag is now 1 pound, one bag at 50 pounds for check luggage. If you buy your tickets on Fiji Airways, if you buy, let's say you're coming from someone else and you buy it all on one ticket on American, who's a partner with them, then Americans policies come in, and a lot of people are getting 2 check bags at 50 pounds. The carry-on is still restricted, but 2 check bags at 50 pounds. If we were doing your flights, we would weigh up the differences between being on Fiji Airways tickets versus American Airlines tickets, and we would weigh all those things up as far as one versus another. I will tell you that Fiji Airways has just introduced some new aircraft that are looking pretty slick. And
nice.
Before taxes, they're the one airline that's been kind of sending us stuff before taxes, but they've got a sale on right now, and I'm sure we're going to see this for a while on and off. It's the trend with all this COVID stuff, but flexible policies on their tickets, and $585 round trip is what they sent us in our inbox this morning before taxes from LAX to San Francisco.
They've also, Cheryl, they've also upped the luggage allowance on those.
Oh, they have?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think it's 30 kilos now in economy.
Okay.
Which I don't know if that's restricted just to the new aircraft. So for the new aircraft, you have to fly out of LA, not San Francisco. But I'm pretty sure they upped the luggage allowance on it to 30.
Okay. Well, the other part of this that I wanted to bring up is because, Richard had kind of shared it, but just to reiterate that Waidroka is one of those places that once you land in Nandi, you don't have to deal with the island hops. And the island hops is where it gets significantly restrictive and is more of a pain in the butt to deal with. So one of the many advantages, I should say, but one of the advantages for Waidroka is that once you land in Nandi, you've just got to get to the resort. You don't have to mess with the commuter flights and their restricted luggage.
Yeah, and just quickly on that, I mean, even though if you buy a through ticket, the island hop part, they will say that you can take your international luggage allowance with you. That's true per the ticket, but the planes go on weight. So if the luggage might not go, it will go, but it might not go with you if the plane's too heavy. Yes, it's a tremendous advantage of being able to not have to worry about that aspect of it. I see we're on 34 in, so unless there's anything else right now, shall I continue on?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the resort now and what's there. As I mentioned, we have 12 rooms. We have three accommodation types. So they're split into panoramic rooms, ocean view berets, and then there's what we call the superior ocean view berets. And I can show you here on this picture. Panoramic rooms, as you can see, I mean, this is a very wide angle shot, so everything is, the distances seem longer than they are, but these do sit up quite high and have amazing views out over the lagoon. And there's 5 of these. And then these are the deluxe berets here. So they're now individual berets. And then down here we have the superior berets, which are have 2 rooms. So there's a number of different configurations that can happen in each of these. So potentially singles, doubles, triples, or even quads or family rooms. And if you add it all up, a total accommodation of somewhere between 24, 26 maximum. So this is a view from the back of the resort looking out, obviously. And here we have one of our panoramic rooms. And here we have one of the deluxe ocean view berets. Further walking around the resort, we have a pool right in front of our main area here. These guys are obviously doing a Discover Scuba or something like that. Dining in either inside, outside. We've got a number of dining areas around the resort. And at this point, it is worth noting that Chef Manassa last year competed in a South Pacific wide cooking competition. There was Fiji, Tonga, Samoa, Vanuatu. There were a number of Pacific Islands competing. He, within the competition in Fiji, he was chosen to represent Fiji. Sadly, didn't win the overall competition, but came second in the Pacific. We are very, very proud of that fact, and it's great to have him on board, producing beautiful meals for our guests. And then if we look back, so this gives you the perspective back from the other side. Also shows you 2 main dive boats here, and where we were looking, here's the pool, here's the main area. We've got some berets here, and then the panoramic rooms up at the top. As I say, very self-contained. The grounds are beautiful. There's 11 acres of grounds. Very pretty location. Moving on somewhat to away from diving and what else is there. Again, because of where we're located on the main island, we're very near to about 20 minutes, 25 minutes away from a small town called Pacific Harbour, which has been dubbed the adventure capital of Fiji. And in the same way that we feel we have access to maybe the largest variety of diving in the country, we also have access to the largest variety of land-based activities in the country. And I'm not going to list them all, but we're going to just get a flavor of them here with some pictures and a visual taste. And we were talking about Frigates Passage earlier. We do get surfers in at the resort. Fiji is very well known for surfing, and there's some world famous breaks in the country. And we were talking about diving Frigates Passage. Well, this is the wave on Frigates Passage. And sometimes we spend our surface interval just sitting right here watching the surfers doing their thing. So this is a very reliable, very well-known wave. I hadn't ever done this when I lived in Fiji, but I did this last year, the river rafting on the upper Navua River. And you raft down this stunning gorge, and I've got to say that I don't know why I didn't do it when I was in country, but this has got to be one of my favorite non-diving things that I've ever done in Fiji. It's truly spectacular. We were lucky when we did it. We had the rapids were up at there were many class 3s and some class 4s. This is obviously a calmer day when this picture was taken. And if you're not in for that, lower down on the river, there's these tubing opportunities where you can just go for an afternoon, maybe even after diving, and just relax out on the river there. There's canopy zip lining, there's caving to explore, and this is something that not many people get to do. If you like to trek, if you like to trek at home, there's some amazing trekking in Fiji, and you can do day treks. For maybe the more adventurous, you can do multi-day treks and stay in villages along the way. And there's a really cool, well-run company called Tanaloa Treks that organizes these, along with local villages and local guides. Along the way, Fiji is renowned for waterfalls. So if you get out on the river, you won't be just looking at the waterfalls, you'll be getting in them. Something Fiji is very well known for days off, or if you just want to relax and chill at the resort, there's always the pampering. And something that we like to do as individuals involved with the resort. We have a yoga studio. We provide healthy menu options for those who want to be away on vacation but continue to eat in a manner that they want to do it like they might do at home, or maybe continue practicing their yoga. One of the things, moving on to Fiji more generally, not only environmentally is it very intact, it's culturally very intact. Despite the fact that it is a tourist destination, you don't really see any cynicism associated with that, or erosion of the culture. The culture remains very strong. And one of the reasons I think this is that people reached Fiji, I think as early as 2000 BC, which is remarkable considering the Vikings only reached the Americas like 3,000 years after that, and Columbus just over 500 years ago. So whilst the origins are still a matter of some debate, Fiji does sit at the crossroads of Melanesia and Polynesia. The people have been there a long time, and the culture is very deep and rich as a result. Obviously, in more recent years, people have come from all over, and today Fiji is a very multicultural, multi-faith country of just shy of 900,000 people. But most of that history, the Fijians were left largely alone, so the culture really developed very strong. Largely because of they had pretty fearsome reputation. If you visited, often you might not come back. Today, that's a very obviously different story, but there's a lot of legends and stories being told in Fiji. This is a typical ceremony. For those that have been, they will know kava. We'll see how kava ceremonies go after current times. I think maybe people might have to have their own bowls, and we won't be sharing. But hopefully we find some way to keep these traditions going, because this is where you can sit down and just shoot the breeze with the Fijians, who love to tell stories, not only about themselves, they love to hear stories from the guests. And ultimately, though we have everything else, it's the people of Fiji who keep visitors coming back time and time again to the country. And it's no cliche that Fijians are amongst the happiest people you could ever hope to meet on Earth. So coming up to summarize now, and we've talked about a lot of this, but some not yet. Why Fiji? For South Pacific diving, the accessibility is quite extraordinary. It's one flight, direct, every day from LA, further 3 flights a week from San Francisco. So extremely well connected, not only to the US, but further on, several flights a day to New Zealand, at least 10, maybe more a day to Australia, and then also connected into Asia as well, the other way. So it's extremely well connected and very easy to get around. Incredible diving, incredible variety of diving, very rich biodiversity, and as we've seen, a huge choice of non-diving activities. Something we don't always mention, but it really makes a difference for the US market. It's English speaking. Everybody in the country speaks English. Schools are in English, government's in English. It makes it a very easy destination. And there's really good tourist infrastructure. And also mention it at this time too, the medical facilities are extraordinarily good for such a small remote country. And as we said, the people are some of the friendliest and most welcoming you're going to find anywhere. And then further, why Waidroka? Well, our location is, as we've talked, on the main island, close to the airport, makes things very easy. And not just that, but easy to access one of the hotspot diving areas in the country, which is why we say we're the place to dive Bengal Lagoon. And we firmly believe that we have the largest variety of diving in one area within Fiji. Intimate, small, home away from home, very personal attention, and the ability to reiterate that because of that intimacy and size, if you have 20 people, you can have the place to yourself, which is great for dive shops and dive groups. The ability to access all of the non-diving activities and real true Fiji cultural experiences. And as I hope you'll see when people are ready to start looking at what's available and the flexibility of what we're going to be offering through Deep Blue and our pricing, I think is extremely attractive. Leaving some time for questions. I just want to, and hopefully this will work, and Cheryl, please jump in if the sound doesn't come through. But I want to play, it's a 1-minute video that I think sums up the Fijian people, and as I say, for all of us who've lived in Fiji and for everybody who visits, this is really what makes the Fijian experience. And my laser's not going to let me click that, so hopefully, there we go.
Hola! I've been thinking, there are not many billionaires around here, but there are plenty billionaires. Bula!
Bula! Bula!
Bula! A billionaire is a person rich with happiness.
Here in Fiji, Bula is more than just a greeting. It's a wish for happiness, good health, and the energy of life we want to share with the whole world.
Bula! Bula! After all, why have the last laugh when you can have the first? Hey! Billionaires, the people who are rich with happiness.
share in Fiji's Bula spirit and meet the people who are rich in happiness. Bulanes.com.
So for those who have been, I hope that that sets you dreaming again and reminds you of the welcome you received when you were in Fiji. And as we're saying at this time, Sotatali, which stay safe, and we will see you soon. Thank you very much. Vinaka Levu.
Thank you, Richard. That was awesome. You definitely took us away today, which is what we were hoping to do. So thank you for that. It was lovely. I was there exactly a year ago, so I'm I'm super sad right now. We had pilot whales and dolphins together off the bow of the boat on the way to our dive sites. The shark dive was amazing. The food was excellent. We had an absolutely fabulous time. We do have a few minutes for Q&A, so we're going to open that up. If anybody wants to speak to Richard directly, we can't have all the microphones and videos going, guys, because sometimes depending on where the presentation is coming from, it can get choppy, but we'll open your mics one at a time. So if you want to do that hand raising again or type in the Q&A or the comments box, we'll switch you on and you can talk directly to Richard. Brent Emery, I'm going to try and switch you on right now, but Brent is basically asking for airport transfers. So if you want to talk about that a little bit, Richard.
Yeah, airport transfers are packaged up in, we mostly do packages. So a dive package will be a 5-night or 7-night package with a certain number of dives in there, and airport transfers are something we take care of, and it'll all be packaged in there. And not just return airport transfers, but if you were doing more than one location, we can transfer out to other places too. But that's all priced in and taken care of by us.
Great, thanks. I think I can't get Brent to unmute. I think it's his microphone that won't allow him to come on. So oh, hold on, I think you're there. There you go, Brent. Did you want to add anything or elaborate to that?
Hey, Brent.
Yeah, Richard, thank you very much for your time today. One other question in that same vein, you said that you had airport pickup and return, and if you were going to use another site on the island. What about some of these other activities that you showed, trekking or the river rafting and all of that stuff? Is that arrangement taken care of also?
Yes, thank you for asking that. I hadn't explained that clearly. Though they are all run by third-party operators, I did allude to the fact that everything, the health and safety standards in Fiji are very high, so they run to a very high standard. We take care of organizing that.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so, and again, we can package that in advance. Which we often do with Deep Blue. But if you didn't want to do that, you can have the resort do that for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Richard.
Thank you for coming along today. It's appreciated.
Is there anybody else that has any questions?
120 volts for photographers.
Oh, there it is. Yep.
If that was a necessity, we would get that organized. I think most equipment these days you can plug into anything from what I see. So most of the chargers will go into anything from I'm looking at one right now. Will go into a 110 to 240. If you look on the back of your charger. I'm looking on the back of a Nikon one right now. But if that was not the case, we would make sure that would be in place for you. The meals, I've got a question here. Again, that's all, we generally package. Going from here, working with Deep Blue, there'd be everything in. So the package would include full breakfast, full lunch, either at the resort or packed out on the boat. The snacks that we take out on the boat with us too, and three course dinners. it's all in there, all included in the packages. The only thing that would not be is any delicious cocktails you might want to have, or beer or wine, or at the bar.
Great, thank you. And Gary, I'm trying to unmute you right now. Gary DeMont, you had your hand up.
You know, I don't really have a
This thing is so delayed. There you go. Nope.
long time, and Terry and you guys helped me arrange my trip with my wife to Fiji several years ago, and we absolutely love it. The corals and the fish and marine life are stunning, but the people are honestly have been some of the friendliest and most welcoming people I've encountered throughout all my world travels. So, you know, wonderful location. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bran, I've got your hand up. Was that from earlier? Or?
No, I've got more to ask. He was talking about food.
Yeah.
The evening meals, are we going to be fortunate enough to have local dishes?
Yes. There's going to be there's going to be a mix of international and local. Once a week, we have what we call we don't call it. So Fiji have in-ground cooking. So it's a pit where they heat stones and wrap their food in banana leaves and palm leaves, and cook it on the bury it and cook it on the hot stones. So it's a hangi type. If you're familiar with that in Fiji, it's called lovo. So we do that every week and have a bit of we call it the lovo feast, and we have some opportunities to try kava, and there'll also be some of the guys and girls will play music and sing and try and get everybody to join in. But the rest of the food is influenced by local fresh ingredients. Manasseh goes down to Suva, to the markets there every week and picks it all out. So it's what's in season and what's local. Yeah.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah, it is.
I think I want to go to Fiji.
Terry was saying Terry was saying in a chat to somebody as this was going on how she came back so much heavier. That's it is good food.
That's a good
Well,
thing.
we really appreciate everybody coming. Richard, thank you so much for your time and taking us away today. We've got so many people commenting about how much they enjoyed this presentation, and it really helped them escape their living room for a while. So thank you guys for that and letting us know and giving us feedback. And Richard, thank you for taking us away.
You're welcome, and I really appreciate everybody coming along today. And thank you for organizing this. This takes us all away.